John Wright is a longtime Mount Pleasant resident who in 2016 organized a Lowcountry relief effort for the residents of Flint, Michigan. Now, after that trip, he has a better understanding of water. I talked one-on-one with John about why he's running for Mount Pleasant Waterworks Commissioner for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. John Wright, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin. Thank you. It is always a pleasure to be on with you. You are a man about the town, and if I'm going to be a part of any town, any community, then I got to be interviewed by Quintin.
Well, thank you very much for that. Obviously, you're the man around town. You're doing so many things, and now you want to add Mount Pleasant Waterworks Commissioner to your resume. In fact, you said your passion for clean water began with your trip to Flint, Michigan in 2016. You organized, obviously, a low-country relief effort called Fully Truck for Flint. What is the biggest difference when you think of clean water from 2016 to right now, John?
Well, Quintin, thank you for acknowledging that 2016 effort. That was an effort that I organized. However, citizens right here in the Lowcountry were valuable and instrumental in ensuring that I was able to take 40,000 gallons of water out to Flint, Michigan. While out in Flint, Michigan, I met, and I was prearranged. My problem started out with I didn't have, eventually I had more water than I had truck. So it meant that the citizens in the Lowcountry had stepped up. They understood the value of ensuring that we did our part to contribute out in Flint. It was prearranged, so when I got there, I met with the Mayor, Karen Weaver, and I met with water commissioners in Flint, Michigan, to get a clear understanding as to what may have happened, how it may have happened, and what were their solutions to resolving the issues. Well, that sprung into on the plane ride back home from Flint, which I went to just make sure that that water was distributed to the resources and the context I had made prior to me going out there. I thought it would be a disservice for me to have 40,000 gallons of water go out to Flint, Michigan, and I not go out and represent citizens of the Lowcountry. So I did that. And what I learned on the plane ride back home was that Mount Pleasant Waterworks was more than just a utility company. It was a local government that was attached to the town of Mount Pleasant. Immediately, I wanted nothing more than to thank the employees of Mount Pleasant Waterworks to ensure that we did not become Flint, Michigan. So yes, it was a great opportunity for me to go out to Flint, Michigan, and to represent the Lowcountry and to represent my community. People Magazine recognized it. I thought it was great. However, I thought just learning more and a better understanding as to how this utility company, that's an integral part of local government, worked.
Why hasn't Mount Pleasant Waterworks become like Flint in a good way?
Well, I think, and factually, Mount Pleasant Waterworks' mission is to provide clean water and sewer. So in 2018, I had a chance to serve on the Citizens Water Academy. That Water Academy became, again, an integral part of understanding that local government agencies and how many pump stations and all the integral details associated with testing and daily activity, whether it was wastewater or whether it was just drinking water.
Right.
So I then understood how this government agency has and does play an integral part into the town of Mount Pleasant. So yes, the Water Academy was clearly an opportunity for me to further understand beyond 2016 what Mount Pleasant Waterworks is, and is that they're more than just a utility.
What should Mount Pleasant Waterworks be in the future?
Mount Pleasant Waterworks should be a place that reflects and represents all its citizens and all its customers. Mount Pleasant Waterworks since 1934 has never had a black representation on the board, on a commission. On November 2nd, we're going to change that. We're going to change that on November 2nd, and I'm going to be there not only to represent what has not been previously represented, but to represent all of Mount Pleasant. We have 95% of Mount Pleasant Waterworks customers live in the town of Mount Pleasant. 5% are in the Charleston County. But that 5% is as well as the 5% that I grew up with, knowing here that we all went to the same high school, Wando High School, and we lived in Mount Pleasant. So there was no such thing as a footprint per se on whether or not you were in the town of Mount Pleasant. So I come back home after 29 years away serving my country, and I realize that we are still one Mount Pleasant. So I will serve all of Mount Pleasant, but in particular, I will pay a special interest to those communities that are currently in Charleston County, but Mount Pleasant Waterworks customers.
And I'm gonna get to that in just a second. But Mount Pleasant Waterworks commissioners should, as you say, reflect and represent the diverse population that are responsible for serving to provide clean water and sewer services. How diverse is the population right now in Mount Pleasant?
It's very diverse. Mount Pleasant has changed dramatically since 1984 when I left. I left at Quintin because we were a very small place, and I didn't see opportunities here. And in '84 when I left, we were about 22% of the population of the town of Mount Pleasant. I weren't aware and did not give any consideration to those statistical numbers as it relates to those that were in Charleston County in 1984. I'm going to eventually say that that population was probably more than the 10% that it currently is today. But one thing today, currently, 2021, where African Americans make up about 4% of the population in the town of Mount Pleasant. And when we add the Charleston County residents that are in the footprint of Mount Pleasant, we're right about 10 to 11%. That 10, 11%, are folks that are in settlement communities that have been in Mount Pleasant since after Reconstruction. They are now what we call 6 or 7 generations later from those that were enslaved here in Mount Pleasant, now living in these settlement communities. So they've essentially these communities were formed before Mount Pleasant Waterworks became local government.
And how much, as far as the minority population, particularly Black residents, has it decreased in Mount Pleasant?
It's decreased dramatically. We're now becoming a senior resort destination, and we're a beautiful place to live. We're surrounded by water, and it's very hard. It's very hard to not enjoy living here. We've blossomed. We've become more than just a little fishing hole on the way to the beach. So the population has changed. We're roughly about almost 92,000 people are better in the town of Mount Pleasant. And this influx of people that are coming here, they're ranging away from, based on statistical numbers and data, about 43%. About 43 people per day.
And how have those demographics had an impact on the Mount Pleasant Waterworks?
They've had a tremendous impact on Mount Pleasant Waterworks. Now, Mount Pleasant Waterworks has now built out about $2 billion in assets. And those assets largely depend on how much more customers they serve. And so, yes, the influx of new citizens and customers that have come here to Mount Pleasant certainly have made Mount Pleasant Waterworks a local government agency that needs participation and needs more people informed of what they do.
And how many new customers has Mount Pleasant Waterworks added over the past year?
Well, in the past year, Mount Pleasant Waterworks is consistently adding customers. The breakdown in the numbers, I don't actually have the actual numbers, but we'll say when we look at Waterworks, if we're bringing in on average about 43 people a day, then we're looking at somewhere in addition to maybe on average about 1,500 to 2,000 more customers that Mount Pleasant Waterworks serve annually.
Then how do you, John, continue to reinvest in infrastructure to keep the water system operating reliably that really places a demand on our financial resources?
Well, uniquely, when I was well aware of the value of Waterworks, I've been an organization that I'm a part of. We became a part of the National Alliance for Clean Water and Sewer. So we wanted to understand what was going on nationally when it came to water and sewer. But one of the things too is been quite unique. Up until this year, Governor McMaster in the state of South Carolina did not include clean water and sewer as a part of infrastructure. but that is now the $9 billion infrastructure bill that Governor McMaster has on his desk to sign has now included clean water and sewer. So I think now that we have that attention at the state level, I think it'll only help our customers here ensure that we continue to be able to possibly make sure that our 10-year capital improvement plans for infrastructure and clean water and sewer it becomes real.
Where do you search for alternative water sources?
Well, alternative water sources ultimately comes from the city of Charleston. There's also the Bulls Bay. So there's different utility companies that Mount Pleasant Waterworks lends and get resources from. So yes, Charleston Water plays an integral part. Bulls Bay plays an integral part. And then there's of course the whole new Google and its request to get in the water business. That has played an integral part as well to how precious water is, but more importantly, the value of it, and ensuring that all partners have the same interest that Mount Pleasant Waterworks has, and that is putting this mission statement in front of all entities, so that we get the same product.
Where is there a reduction in growth of customers due to the town's permit allocation system?
Where is there a reduction in growth?
Yes, sir.
Well, that reduction in growth primarily with the permit allocation. I think it affects businesses more than it affects residential. Because when we get apartments that come in, we get condos that come in, then they operate separately from residential than residents, but they also operate separately from businesses. So I think that the impact has had more to do with businesses than it has to do with residents, because people are moving here every day. Businesses are not. However, people are.
Where is there demand, John, for capacity expansion due to growth?
Well, the capacity expansion has largely has more to do with the town and its build out in the future of its 10 capital improvement projects. That probably will answer a lot of the issues as it relates to growth and what capacity and where we eventually get resources from. It's all pretty much laid out in the capital improvement.
How would you help the Waterworks Administration analyze the physical impact of lower impact fees and new customer revenue?
Well, I think it's a critical part to ensure that everybody is treated, that there's some consideration and fairness given to every citizen, but every customer as well. We know that we know we're a work in progress, and we're also a local government that's unique and being a utility provider. So we have to combine customer service with the ability to grow, as well as to manage the growth as we grow, to ensure that we put out a good, strong product.
What is the current capacity expansion of the wastewater treatment system?
The current expansion, I am not. I'm not a commissioner, so I don't have the exact answer to that. But I'm sure that once elected, I will certainly look at all of those integral parts, and I will be able to answer that better. Unfortunately, not being a commissioner and not being on the inside, that is an answer I simply cannot provide to you. However, I do know that those are all very valid questions, and to know where we're going in the future, I'll start immediately on November 2nd to ensure that I have all the critical answers to questions like yours as it relates to capacity and what we will look like 5 to 10 years.
Does the 30-year extension to the Mount Pleasant Waterworks purchase contract with the Charleston Water System appear adequate to meet the demand for services for the next decade?
I think it's more than adequate. We partner very well with Charleston Water, and they have the same mission statement that we have. So in order for Mount Pleasant Waterworks to be effective, we have to have good resources, and we also have to have great partners.
I'm sitting right around the corner from there. But what is the demand right now?
The demand for Waterworks as it relates to Charleston Water?
Yes, sir.
Well, the demand is to continue to forge the strong relationship that we currently have, understand their systems, understand how they're building out, what partners that they're partnering with, to ensure that we're partnering with the same people, but we're getting the same value, and that is a quality product, whether it's clean water or sewage.
How would you, John, help the Waterworks change their leak adjustment policy so that they can notify customers when they have continuous consumption of a leak indication?
Quentin, that's a huge question, and oftentimes when I tell people that I run for Waterworks, number one, first of all, there are people here that's lived here all their life that not even know Waterworks commissioners were even elected. So when we look at that, there's a huge misunderstanding. But what I will do and what I will ensure happens is participation. I plan to ensure that all of our citizens and all our customers get a chance to participate in Waterworks so we can get a better understanding of leakage and how these things happen and when they happen and what recourse to take. Right now as it stands, and in my years of going to Waterworks Commissioner meeting, there's never anyone there. But I do know there's complaints. There's complaints about leakage. There's complaints about the rates going up. But what happens is no one is ever at those Waterworks meetings to air those concerns. I want to hear them. I want to see them. Simply because I know that things aren't perfect. However, but what I do know is that we got to come up with valuable solutions because leakage, when you're notified about a leakage, you better pay very close attention to your rate because it's going to spike. Myself as a customer of Mount Pleasant Waterworks, I've experienced that myself. And did I question everything? Of course, I did. However, what I ultimately did as well is I got somebody out there to give me a breakdown on what am I doing, how am I doing it, and as well to get inside to determine whether or not I have an inside problem or whether or not there's an outside problem. And there's always that opportunity that possibility that it could be more than just internal. It could be external. But first line of defense is to make sure you get one of those water technicians out there to make sure that your meter is reading properly, and if you have a leakage, that we resolve that. And I think Mount Pleasant Waterworks has done a great job from a customer service standpoint to work through these issues with their customer. Has everyone been happy with it? By no means. That's not a perfect world. So what I will do as commissioner is I'll make sure that participation is critical, understanding about how this works, and I will be very transparent in every aspect of Mount Pleasant Waterworks local government.
Now, do you hope that the Waterworks will use direct or indirect portable reuse and obviously equitable recharge with reclaimed water?
Well, I think that our general manager, Alan Crum, is a very, very smart young man. Clay Duffy, obviously, who I've had a relationship with for a very long time, after 32 years, have now departed. We are in a transition phase. But Alan Crum is a very smart young man, and Alan has not only been here in Mount Pleasant, but he's also served in Charleston Waterworks. So we have someone that I know I could lend my strong support to as a commissioner. But I'm confident, very confident, that Alan will ensure that all scientific understanding of water and will be conveyed to commissioners to ensure that we're doing the right things by the citizens. Very, very confident, gentlemen.
And how do you hope they will work with DHEC and DNR on enhanced monitoring of the groundwater?
Well, DNR and DHEC that's a daily, constant interaction. Simply because they're both they're both let's just say they're answering agents. We have to answer to them, and in answering to them, then we have to make sure that we're doing all that we can to make sure that DNR and DHEC is not indicating that we have a problem. So them being an answering agent, there's no way around ensuring that they're a player and that they're important in what we do. So DHEC and DNR will forever be an answering agent, but more importantly, an agent that we look to ensure that we're doing the right things and we're providing clean water and sewer, which is what our mission essentially is.
And how do they monitor that groundwater right now?
Well, it's monitored daily. It's tested daily, and this is a long process. But it is one of those process that I'm encouraging, and I demand almost that our citizens, but our customers, get more involved so they can understand the whole process. And one of the things that I will do as soon as elected on November 2nd is I will ensure that we have more Citizens Academy, like I had a chance to attend in 2018, so that all these answers, all these questions, the understanding of groundwater, understanding of wastewater, and all the integral details of this local government is available to its customers and citizens. Because again, it is a huge local government agency, and given what it provides, only makes it at all every time questionable whether or not it's doing all that it can or what more can it.
And what are the total operating revenues for the Mount Pleasant Waterworks?
Waterworks is about $2 billion in assets. Very, very large operating local government agency. Recently we just built a brand new facility that we named the Clay Duffy facility on Rifle Range Road. That was some $70 million project, and so Mount Pleasant Waterworks is expanding constantly, and so the whole idea that it's just a utility company, we need to change that concept and that thinking.
Now, with the operating revenues, John, where do those funds come from?
Well, the funds come directly from the customers.
What are the total? And what are the total expenditures for Waterworks?
Total expenditures for Waterworks is, again, I would love to be able to say that those exact numbers, but being that I've not been a commissioner, those are things that I look to from the numbers that are currently being put out. So in my case, not having the opportunity to be on the inside, given those numbers, I prefer to say, well, what I do know was the assets that they are, but expenditures and the details of that, I'd like to stay away from until after November 2nd when I have more details, so I can give a better answer.
What is the current bond rating for Waterworks?
The bond rating, again, that's one of those integral details that actually I'm not privileged to. And, I've been campaigning to become a commissioner so that I can learn the job on the job. And instead of trying to get all involved in all the integral parts of it until I'm elected. I think that the bond rating, and which is very good and has been very good, because, of course, Mount Pleasant Waterworks borrows money through its bond rating. So at this point, the rating has always been very high, and I think Clay Duffy has left a legacy for Alan Crump to follow as it relates to that. And the bond rating and things such as that are a lot of staff issues, but in particular things that commissioners vote on and approve. So it has been a very good local government agency at this point as it relates to bonds and paying its finances and its bills. And I think it'll continue to be. I will only do all that I can to be an added value service.
And obviously, you get your bill every month like everybody else. But do you know how many cumulative water gallons are billed each month?
Well, I think it's all based on usage. And when you look at usage, I think usage varies based on households, depend on how many people are in that household, depend on the usage. So that in itself is cumulatively every month. When you look at 91,000 customers that is served, just know that's a lot of service, a lot of requirements to provide a service to 91,000 people. So when you look at cumulative daily use, those numbers can be very large. However, there is a demand. Waterworks has done a great job to this point to ensure that it has fit the demands.
Speaking of which, what are the water demand projections?
Well, water demand, the projections will only increase as population increase. The more population, the more the demands, the more the need for ensuring that we do all those daily checks and preventive maintenance issues. So the increase in the projections will only serve the population as a population.
And how should Waterworks accept new infrastructure that meets Waterworks standards?
Well, infrastructure is going to be it is now included in it's now included in the bill. Clean water and sewer now again has been added to the infrastructure bill. So I think that not only does the demands continue to there continue to be a demand to meet DHEC and Department of Natural Resources, but now we have a Linden and a partner at the state level that has recognized that clean water and sewer is infrastructure, and it has always been infrastructure, but now included in an infrastructure bill.
What have been water losses over the past 5 years?
What water loss have?
Yes, sir. Water losses.
Well, water loss over the past 5 years, again, Quintin, that's one of those substantial, integral parts of that government. That again, for me to fairly answer, I may not be able to give an exact answer, but I will again. I will rely heavily on Alan Crum, the general manager, to ensure that I understand water loss and all those integral parts that I have not been privy to at this point. But I'll get a clear understanding once elected on November 2nd. So I'm going to go in on November 2nd with understanding of I'm one that of an OJT. I'm on the job learning, and I'm going to learn every day that I'm there. And every day that I'm there, I'm going to have a better answer than the day before.
Now, are there any current annexation demands?
Yes, that's an issue. That's annexation demands that you want to annex to the town of Mount Pleasant. You have to have water and sewer. Well, you have water, you have to have sewer. That impact fee can be substantial, and that I think has been the curveball and what you've constantly heard in the past about these settlement communities or those that are in Charleston County as a reason why they won't annex into the town of Mount Pleasant. Those fees are substantial. What we need to do, and what is much needed, is again is an advocate, not a sympathizer for these issues. And what has to happen is in roughly 2018, Charleston County at the time in a 3-week period was considering had proposed an ordinance that would make water and sewer mandatory. Well, that didn't sit well with me, nor did it sit well with the board that I serve as president of, the African American Settlement Commission.
Right. We
We immediately interjected and said, how could we look at this so that the public can be more aware and more informed of how this ordinance would affect them, whether it be financial or whether it be from a cost to tie in. Well, in that 3-week time frame that Charleston County attempted to put this ordinance before council, we rejected it. Not only we rejected it, but we rejected it on several reasons. We didn't think that the public was aware or had enough time to understand what potential implications that ordinance would have. So in doing so, I said then, and I'll say now, that Charleston County has got to do more. So what I'm going to do as Waterworks Commissioner, I'm going to demand that Charleston County puts in some public funds of somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 to $750,000 to offset the impact fees of annexation. I don't think that a person should have to, if they're in the footprint of Mount Pleasant, they're already a customer, should have to pay $10,000 impact fees. And if their governing body is in Charleston County, Charleston County has got to do more for their residents, and I'm going to demand that they do more so that public funds can be available so that we can have this environmental issue, clean water and sewer, addressed so that the entire Mount Pleasant becomes better off without having to worry about an ordinance that relates to annexation for citizens that are in the town of Mount Pleasant, as it requires now. Annexation. That's a term that's actually, as you very well know, has not been met very well by a lot of the citizens as it relates to sewer. So demand is to make Charleston County step up, do more for us citizens that are in Mount Pleasant footprint, but demand public funds be available so that the public can monitor it and ensure that that if you're a citizen and you live in one of those neighborhoods and one of those communities and you want sewer, then public funds will be available for you to offset the cost of impact fees. And it's just a simple matter of an allocation funds directly to clean water and sewer, so that we can address the environmental impact.
What is an estimate of the projected growth of the water system?
The projected growth of the water system, again, that's one of those things I'll rely on the experts to provide those answers, because as a commissioner, as a candidate running for Waterworks Commission, those are a lot of answers that I currently today don't have. But what I will do well is I'll partner well, and I'll make sure that Alan and all those experts that are whether they're in tech support or whether they're in field services or operations, I'll have all those details and be a smarter commissioner, simply because I didn't have them before I got elected.
And what do you hope the impacts of present and probable future drinking water quality regulations will be?
Well, I think there's a standard across the board currently right now, and I only anticipate that standard increasing, the demands increasing, the quality, to ensure that we are, as we move forward with all the concerns, whether it's lead or whether it's utilization of water and who's providing it. We have to continue to make sure that Waterworks does its part to ensure that we do our daily tests, that daily tests are done, treatments are done, recovery and cost is done. So there's a lot of integral parts to that, because we have pipes in the ground that are currently they've been there for a while. So we have to recover those, and that's a cost in itself. I think one of the challenges with our 10-year capital improvement plan is the fact that the cost of things have changed. So if there isn't anything that's going to affect that 10-year capital improvement plan, it could potentially be the fact that cost has now increased.
What is that average day demand for water? I've always thought about that.
Yeah, well, the average day for water, I think it's it has a lot to do with the user and how much people are in the residence, and so that is how those consumptions are broken down. If you're looking for an accurate, you would assume that a family of two or a family of three would be used somewhere less than 5,000-6,000 gallons of water a day. I mean, it's a lot for a family of two. But when you look at each additional member of the family, and as we look at size of the family, that in itself has a whole lot to do with consumption. Then when we add in businesses, it's really hard to assume what your daily average usage is. But I'm almost 1,000% certain that usage varies based on number of reasons. Your question about the historical water use in Mount Pleasant. Mount Pleasant used to, of course, as you know, there was always a heavy concentration in the south end of town. And now that Mount Pleasant is built out, and there are more customers now beyond the IOP Connect, and that's where our growth is currently happening there, more so than the south end of town. The historical aspects of what we used to be compared to where we're becoming has changed. It's evolved, and we have to be able to ensure that we have the same ability to serve the historical part of Mount Pleasant as we do the entire town.
And you said this back in earlier this summer. You said this: witnessing the 87-year-old water tower coming down was bittersweet. As a kid passing the tower daily, I never knew how symbolic it was. I'm grateful it was safely removed. Let me ask you, John, should it have stayed and be replaced with a cell phone antenna?
Definitely not. Replaced with a cell phone antenna. That tower, as I said, it was built back in 1934, and it's been an iconic figure for the town of Mount Pleasant for a very long time. I ultimately said back in 2017 and 2018, when the discussion was being had about how what it currently serves today, and that was primarily as a water tower. I mean, as a repeater for service providers, cell phone service providers, and that was fine then because there was no water running through it. There had been no water running through it since 1989.
Right.
So it had been a very long time that it was used for the purpose of water. The pump station was still there. However, and since '89, there had been no water running through it. But in the meantime, through that time, it has served Waterworks because it provided communications a tool for the community and for the town. But when you look at that, the water tower and the understanding, and to be on the ground and to literally have a chance to see how that thing was no longer becoming safe for the town, the question became: do we have taxpayers spend $800,000 or more to restore it, to repaint it? Would it be safer to remove it? Well, I think safety became the critical aspect. What became very unique is it was not great to see it come down, but I am relieved today after being there and watching it come down and speaking with the gentleman that was doing the actual cutting of it, that his comments has resonated with me today, and his comments clearly were at the top of that water tower could easily have been in the middle of Coleman Boulevard in the event of a major hurricane. So today I feel like we're safe without the tower, but it is bittersweet because it's no longer gone. It's no longer there.
John Wright, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin. It is a pleasure again, and I say that with sincerity, that anytime I get a chance to talk to you and get to see a smiling face, it makes the interview just that much easier. I love the fact that you're homework bound, and you've done your homework to make sure that I understand what I'm getting into and all the questions that could potentially come to me. And I'm happy to say to you, Quinn, that I'm glad I don't have all the answers, because it tells me that I am a work in progress, and I intend to work with those professionals and those that are in those positions, whether it's operations, whether it's human resources, whether it's field service. I will get out there and I will get a better understanding of how Mount Pleasant Waterworks, all the whole component works, so that a year from now, when I'm doing this interview with Quintin Close Up on 1 year later, then some of those same questions will be answered. But I really appreciate you asking, and I am not, by no means, have no problem saying I don't have an answer.
I appreciate your honesty as well as the viewers.